Let's go. 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 Let's go.
You know the frequency, yeah. You know the frequency. Come on. You know the frequency, yeah. You know the frequency.
I've been upgrading my frequency. I've been protecting my energy. I've been upgrading my frequency. No matter what, I protect my energy.
We off the grid.
Yes. We are back. For another episode of Frequency Live on WMB1 Radio. I'm your host, B. Carter.
Double D, Derek Demers. Charlie P. What's happening?
And we are the Frequency Live on WMB1 Radio. What is going on, guys?
What's up? Long week.
Very long week. I got here late.
Yes.
Usually I'm the first one here. I was the last one.
Hey, ratings went down last week, huh? Just you two. You know what I mean?
That's it. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
But we reconnected now. I realized that I wasn't even connected onto the Facebook. I think that was the reason.
Yep. Sabotage. I did it.
That's what it is, yo. Yo, you can't just let the stop be the stop.
I gotta negotiate, man. Contract. So, do everything I can, man.
Oh, man. So how was your weekend? How was your week, guys?
Great week, man. I celebrated some family birthdays. Got to hang out at like House Tavern, nice place. Doing some amazing things. I'm all for that little club down there.
All right, yeah.
That is awesome. I had a great weekend, very busy, but I got to watch some March Madness, Celtics games. So busy, but kind of relaxing when I can.
Can we acknowledge our national champions of New England, representing New England, UConn, blowing out South Carolina?
It was unexpected. I thought it was.
It was unexpected? Unexpected win or unexpected blowout?
Blowout. The win was, but the blowout was there. It was something I didn't expect. The win, I chose them in the bracket, as my winner, and so happy for them. I had South Carolina. Yeah, I was kind of rooting for them to 3 in a row. You know what I mean? Double back to back or whatever.
I tell you what, though, I had a debate earlier with one of my friends about what can make the WNBA greater or better. Now we want to compare the WNBA comparison to the NBA, but you got to understand they're playing catch up to the NBA.
Yeah,
and I feel like with Caitlin Clark and Angie Reese coming in, that's their burden magic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they're in the 80s right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. They're 40 years behind right now. They're 40 plus years behind, where I don't like to compare the WNBA to the NBA. So I feel like, when you was watching college, you watch college teams where every individual player for the last 4 years they were there. Yeah. That's where the stars are created. So when they get into the NBA, you actually follow these college players into the NBA and watch their development. You watch the development from high school through college into them being a grown-ass man to reach their full prime potential. Mm-hmm. So I think that with the WNBA, that is the thing that you got to develop the stars on the college side of it. And I think that the NIL is ruining that, because now you cannot even follow players because you don't even know what team they're on from year to year.
Indiana lost their whole team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't like that.
I don't like that. And so it ruined. I think the way the college is running is going to ruin the product of the NBA. Like right now, I like watching women basketball because I like how they play. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when the NIL is coming into play, especially into women's sports, and where people pay more attention, is going to affect the WNBA, because now you cannot create stars when they're going from team to team to team. And so to make money, you must have a product, so create the product so the women can make the money that they deserve, so people have more people to watch. But that's here nor say. That's a conversation for a later day. But we have a great show coming up. We have a special guest, city council person, Brian Gomes. Just talking to him before we got on air, he goes, he's not afraid to speak. And that's what I love, because this show is all about communication, conversations, and we want to take in calls. go on the chat. Go on the chat if you have any questions. Please don't hesitate to go on the chat and speak your mind that way. There's a lot of things that we're going to talk about with Brian. So, how you feel about having this guest on, because, Charlie, you've been a police officer for New Bedford for many years. So I'm sure that you guys have, touch bases. You have run from mayor. So you've been in the same political spectrum. So, how do you feel about this guest coming on?
Well, his legacy it speaks for itself. He's been in place. He's that cornerstone brick of City Hall, where you can't mention anything in City Hall without bringing his name up. And initially in his career, everyone knows he tried and kept trying until he was successful. And now he's successful term after term after term. The city speaks in volumes when he gets elected. The numbers show it. They show it, and that's why he's here. So, me, I like to always say I want to give someone their flowers while they're standing, and that's why he's here, to give us an organic view of whatever we ask him.
Yeah,
we're going to give him a question. He's going to give us an answer, and there's one thing that we know: it's going to be organic. So, and that comes from him. I mean, you was colleagues with his great niece,
Who's that? Who's your great niece?
Who was on the Wind Down podcast for so many years?
Oh yeah,
man.
sure. Oh, that's right.
C-lister.
Yeah,
C-lister.
Crystal, yeah, this whole podcast thing was developed between her and I. And I have a great appreciation of Crystal, because there is no Frequency Live without the beginning of the Wind Down podcast with Crystal. Yeah. And it started with her and I, and she's a legacy in this WMB1 radio story. So,
what I like about C-lister is that, and she always poured the glass, she always poured the wine,
yeah,
kept my glass to its rim, I like that.
Yeah. She's an amazing woman, and she knows that. I always appreciate her.
We gotta rein her in, man.
Yeah. Like, again, I always tell her, because y'all always welcome on the show, and like I'll eventually reach out her to come on the show with a special guest too, and she's not afraid to talk like this man that we're gonna have on.
In the family blood. Right?
With now, let's switch seats, Charlie.
All right.
I want to introduce Brian. And as you switch seats, can you put on the spotlight, because we need the lights on Brian. We have New Bedford City Council person Brian K. Gomes coming in, and I want to welcome you, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I feel
Glad
like
you're
I'm
here.
in the main seat.
Yeah, you are in the main seat.
I almost want to take it over. WMB1 Live. Bri, how you doing?
Listen,
everybody?
you are probably the first representative of the city to come on this show. There's a lot of people, which they're starting to get people that want to come on this show. And it shows the development of the radio station and the show. So we want to thank you for you to be the first person that represents the city to come on this show. And I want to thank you a lot.
I appreciate the opportunity. And let me say, what WNB1 Radio is doing is phenomenal. We had a little conversation before we were going live, and I'm just proud of all of you and what is happening here. And what we need is another broadcast outlet in the city of New Bedford. Not only given the fun, the talk, the politics, everything as we talk, and someday I'd like to see this station doing that every hour news thing, and just reaching the community, and the community knowing that you have a source of information coming at you that is nothing but true.
Yes, exactly.
True to the fact.
Thank you. So I have a thing how I do my interviews. I like that. Let's get to know you as an individual. So I have a question that is maybe off base, or what would be into off base, and what we'll really get into during this interview process. Here's the question. If you had an opportunity to have dinner with someone, dead or alive, who would that person would be?
Wow.
Tough one.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Can I pick two?
Go ahead, pick two.
President Kennedy
Okay.
and MLK.
Well,
Now
Sit down with those two.
Yeah.
yes.
I've always
Tell why. Please
I've
tell
always
why.
felt that you know, back when those two men were assassinated, they were assassinated for a reason, and the reason is they were touching on bases of things that people didn't want them to touch.
Yeah.
They did not want neither one to touch, and I've always been a believer that if the men had lived their life to its fullest, that it could have been. We had a different world. We had a different world because they were about a different world and what they stood for. And I think to sit down with those two would be a magical conversation.
It's funny you say that because I believe Kennedy is one of our best presidents, if not top three, in my opinion, even though he only served 2 terms before his demise. Martin Luther King obviously is self-explanatory, but also he has a connection to my family, the Carter family, who my great uncle had a personal relationship with.
That's right.
And to know his history with him, the 60s was an era of this country that I really look at as the beginning of America. Because before then, America is not today until it starts with the 60s. Anything before then, that's not the America that we're living today. So the influence of Kennedy and Martin Luther King is something that needs to be required to be taught in detail, because they were the beginning of what this country is supposed to be today.
I couldn't doubt you anymore. I agree. As I said, I believe that our country is a different place, and what them men were fighting for, and not only for equality and for the rights of blacks, and Kennedy going after the corruption and all that.
Yeah,
Now, their lives were taken because it's similar to some of the stuff that we see going on right now.
yeah, it does.
If you kind of look at it, you know, when I didn't know we were going to do this, but we'll do it for a moment. You know, with Mr. Trump, President Trump.
Yeah.
You know, the attempted assassination. I don't care what you think of the man.
Mhm.
When you attempt to take his life,
Mhm.
such as you did,
Yeah.
a lot of things happened prior to that. The courts, the this, the arrest, all that, Mar-a-Lago, all that stuff.
Mhm.
But when you attempt to take someone's life because they're standing up and they're trying to be somewhat of a leader in this country to lead the people. There is no place for it. There is no grounds for it.
No, I don't agree
And
with
people
that at
should
all.
be held accountable.
Yes.
And that's how I feel. Like I said, with MLK and Kennedy, our world would have been different. Them men were fighting for rights and all the good things that, and a lot of them things came to fruition. But they didn't get to see it. They didn't get to see it.
Yeah,
but
they
the
didn't.
fight was on. And again, I believe that would be a magnificent sit down conversation.
Oh
with
yes.
two great individuals. And I just had to say too, because that was an unexpected question. Who would I like to sit down? So that's who I would like to sit
Good answer.
down with.
And the reason why I asked that question, because it gets to know you as an individual. It almost, that question says a lot about yourself. You know, some people may
I come from the area, you know, even
Yes.
when these two men were killed, I can close my eyes and see the emotions of the older people. We're young kids, but you can remember, and you see the emotion from the store, the clerks in the store. I can remember the day like it was yesterday, and in both instances where it just felt like something had been robbed from us. Whether you didn't have to be related to these two gentlemen in any way, or you just took something from us, and it seemed to happen, boom, boom, when it happened, and there was a reason. I still believe that the reason was they were touching on bases where you didn't want them to touch. And it's funny, in politics, that's where we're at.
Yes.
And we were at then, and we're still at it. When you begin to step on toes or you move the wrong feet, they're going to show you how the feet is done. I have been always one that I love the challenge, and you want to show me how the feet steps are done? Maybe I've got some steps for you. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean that in structure, in standing up. When the people send you to do a job such as represent them, you have to go in with a confidence of what you're going to do.
Yes.
And somewhat of a balance. And just take it on, and
Mhm.
no hiding on the facts. Some people in politics, it's a lot about nothing. It's a lot about nothing. Rah, 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 me, me, me.
Mhm.
Got to do this. I got to do that. Even nowadays with the Facebook, you
Yeah.
know, we're putting up on Facebook. I did this. I did that.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
these
yeah,
people.
yeah.
I did that. I do a lot of things
Yeah.
for a lot of things.
Perception is not
And-
reality.
And I don't have to
Yeah.
post it. It should be, you just get it done.
Mhm.
It's not a matter of me, you
Mhm.
know. Oh, thank God Brian came along and took care of that situation, you know,
Yeah.
because if he hadn't, boy, the world would have failed.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have.
Let me ask you, because I really want to touch bases on where, you know, we're gonna get to the point of position you're in today, but I want to start from the beginning. In that time era when you're a child, because I'm sure that time period had a big influence on your life. And people don't understand that we as Americans have, there's only a generation ago that we've dealt with racism on that spectrum. And I've talked to Derek about this, is where I feel like racism is taught, right? But so is the pain when it comes to the black people. So we are, as minorities, we're taught that pain, not intentionally. It's just how we are. So I want to, like, what's your experience and how those experiences influenced you to become a public servant, um which you are today.
Well, again, my family Democrat as we grew up and whatever, and I got into politics through like the family type of thing, because that was the thing to do. You
Mhm.
kind of, as a kid, you went out there, and if you volunteered for somebody, you were out in the supermarkets putting bumper stickers on cars, you were handing out tickets, you were doing door to door. It was
Mhm.
really old school of
Yeah.
how politics was done. And for me, I watched some people get elected, and what drove me to want to be part of politics was watching others get elected and then not doing what they said they were going to do.
Mhm.
Fitting into that group. All of a sudden, I came here telling you how much I was going to do for the city, but now I'm being told by some chairman or whatever of how you do it. I don't play. I would not do that.
Mhm.
So again, for me, coming up, a lot of great experiences in my life and a lot of bad experiences in my life, and
Mhm.
it varies or whatever. But when it came to me finally running for politics, I ran 5 times to get elected.
Mhm.
On the 3rd time that I ran, I was told, why don't you move into Ward 4 and you'll get elected? And I looked at that person and I was kind of like, what did you just say to me? Yeah, so what you're saying to me is I can't get elected citywide. Why don't I move into Ward 4? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll let my cousin.
So when they say, like, let's be clear. When they say Ward 4, why are they saying Ward 4?
Ward 4 was predominantly Cape Verdean black. The upper part of Buttonwood Park was the other side. They
Mhm.
always killed the election when it came to a minority. If you want to look back at, God bless his soul, my mom's cousin Donald Gomes, who
Mhm.
had ran for that office, deserved to have that office, would always get beat when that last precinct came in behind Buttonwood Park, because
Mm.
it was almost, it was in place to do what it did. Okay.
Mhm.
And you just didn't recover from that precinct, whether the opponent had 280 votes to your 100, and
then that
was
word
all-
comes in and hits.
and that was it. It was done. As I said, I ran several times, and then they tell me to run into Ward 5. That even gassed me up even more. That even gassed me up. I ran again. I ran that 4th time, and that 4th time, I ended up finished 7th place in the at-large race. I finished 400 votes out of number 5, which would have given me a seat.
Mhm.
This is in 1989. In 91, when I ran, I said, "Look, we're going to do this. We know the game plan here. It's somewhat taken a while, but we're going to." So we strategically did a door-to-door type of campaign. We did everything that we were supposed to do, and with very, very little money. Made it look like money. And there was a lot of resources that I had. Some people who, when I say stepped up to the plate, whether it was the sign guy that said, "I'll make the signs for you, and when you have the money, you come and give it to me," or whatever. That's where Brian Gomes came from. And in 1991, I won every precinct in the city of New Bedford. I was the biggest thing since sliced bread. Me and Rosemary Tierney are being held up in the air in downtown New Bedford. I can't even feel my feet, and I am off to the races. And it was very rewarding to me after trying so long. And I stayed focused on what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was make the city of New Bedford a better place. And there was some troubled areas that needed to be addressed that nobody was addressing. And I decided to do that. But again, when I ran, there was nothing more than I wanted to show leadership. I didn't want to fall into that same can that I seen others that I either helped or whatever get fixed in. Now all of a sudden,
you're part of the clique.
You're part of the clique. And what happened, even you having your friends say, oh, now that you're elected, you're not going to be the same guy. You're not coming down to the club anymore. You're not going to No, I'm coming to the club. The only thing I have is a position now where I have a responsibility. I got to put a tie on at night, and I've got to go represent the people. But I'm going to be the same Brian. I'm going to be the same guy. And I've tried never to be anybody different than who I am.
Right.
So I want to congratulate you on 34 years of public service in New Bedford. But first, I want to say, which Charlie stole my thunder, 10 years of trying to get on to the council, which five elections. I remember I was probably in high school or something, and I remember my mom saying, like, how many times is this guy going to run for office? Because you kept missing out, right? So I congratulate you on sticking to your guns and finally getting in there.
Let me just throw one other piece in there. As some of you know, Charlie knows or whatever. I worked for Cal Pimentel down at Smuggler's Den. Got a part-time job there on a Friday night, Saturday night as a coat check guy, selling taking coats, selling popcorn and T-shirts. I probably worked that job for about an hour and a half, and I'll tell you how that all happened some other time. But I ended up working for Cal, ended up becoming a manager for him. And on one occasion in I think it was 1989, we registered over 400 young people in one day on the last day at City Hall, where Sherry and the girls actually had to set up tables out in the hallway because they caravanned from Smuggler's Den. We just passed out flyers during the course of the weekend. All the young people came. And where I'm going with this, gentleman, is very interesting. Whether it was black, white, Irish, Portuguese, whatever, they came and they registered to vote. So what turned from that, and we felt that it was a boost in 89 that put me as close as I did, was because you were having young people go home, registered to vote, and said, hey, Mom, Dad, you go out to vote for Brian Gomes. Well, who the heck is Brian Gomes? But if my kid is telling me about Brian Gomes, who never talked about politics, never was involved in politics, we're going to vote for Brian Gomes. And that's awesome. Where it came. It was like William Salzman asking me, where did I get all the pretty women to work the polls? I told him it was easy. I worked at Billy Woods Roth's.
You got a question?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we can get into a little bit of the conversation with the city, I want to ask you about the commuter rail, because that's been in the works for 25, 30 years.
Yep.
So my two questions was, one, why did it take so long? Was it like infrastructure that the city needed, or was it like more like state funded? And my second part of the question was, what's your expectations going forward with it?
Well, the first part of it, would have loved to have seen the train come early on. From back in the days, but it seemed to keep running into trouble. There was little funding here, little funding there. As the governors changed, we're getting a little farther here, but it was never coming to fruition. Now, at one time, as you know, Bob Kraft and them wanted to relocate after the former Foxborough Stadium, wanted to locate in a new location for the stadium. So I sent a note through the council that we had a spot from. I wanted to take the Washburn, Hicks Street, Logan Street area where you presently see off 195, all that tire, our F&B tire, all that. I wanted to just take it. And that's where we would put the stadium. At that time, Jim Phillips, the Channel 13 guy, and I put us on the map for 7 days because everybody said New Bedford was in the spot. We had a letter back from Patriots owners or management that it would be taken into consideration for now, whatever. Jim Phillips said it would have made perfect sense with the railroad coming in.
No question.
That was then, because the train would have came in on the line.
On the stadium.
Would have been right north of that. And when you build something like that, I didn't want to blow the city up, but my stadium you build a stadium like that, you're not only going to have the football, you're going to have a lot of draws, as we see.
Yeah.
And that only fell out to another thing later on we could talk about, but was with the Blue Ox team, when I still wanted to put a stadium up there, 15,000 people round, and it would have been a multi-purpose stadium. We would have played Blue Ox baseball, but you would have been able to do the soccer in the stadium. We would have had Chris Rock here for 3 nights. And when you start doing things like that and you start having a vision like that, you begin to now have those entrepreneurs that are going to come along, because here comes Derek saying, oh, damn, if you're going to put 15,000 people in that stadium on a weekend basis for a round robin soccer championship, let's say, a tournament.
That's traffic.
That's traffic. We need a Dunkin' Donuts.
Derek has that money. Lamakia Realty.
We need this.
Yeah.
And we need another hotel. And I just seen the area growing, and that would have been still fine with Wamsutter Mills apartments and everything there, but you would have really cleaned up that area, and you would have given a beautiful vision from 195 as you drove through this city, which I feel would have been very attractive. And I wasn't ahead of Bob Kraft at the time, but when I wanted to do that, gentlemen, I wanted to put the Boys and Girls Club there, not take it out of the West End, just another annex, because you know what the Boys and Girls Club has done.
Oh, no question.
Continue to do in conjunction with the Blue Ox baseball team. We would have that there, and stores located and restaurants in the place. So now no one could say, well, Brian went out and spent, at that time, I think it was a $15 million, $15 million project or whatever, the place would have paid itself back with the leasing. And
why do you think that wasn't in big consideration?
That was a 3-1 vote by the city of New Bedford, and it wasn't in consideration simply because, hey, Brian Gomes ain't supposed to come up with ideas like that. If he comes up with ideas like that and he can take a depressed area that looks like it does and put a skyline on the city of New Bedford, he may be a danger to the future of maybe that higher office. Because what happened to me after that, even though the Blue Ox came and everything, the people of the city voted 3-1 in a very strong vote to have that stadium and everything built. Certain things happened in the city that just wasn't too kosher, and I could bring up the names. Everything from them destroying my rendering of the of the thing after asking me to borrow it or whatever, and just kind of putting the kibosh on it. Oh, they're coming here and they're trying to take the city's money. Nobody was going to take the city's money. That's the last thing I'm going to do, is try to get the city involved in something that was going to take to this. But remember, this stadium was a long-lasting thing. Whether the Blue Ox stayed here or we had round robin with soccer, we did this, we did that. Like I said, Chris Rock in town. Where are they coming from? They're coming from all over. They are going to eat in our restaurants. If we structure our city right, we are going to sell this city.
I always felt like, as a person that lived in this city, my perception from the outside, not knowing the intricacies like you do, I always felt like the mindset of the people that make decisions like that were real old. Meaning they don't understand the progression of the way the world is becoming. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like
they want to keep it to themselves. They
keep
their own
they don't want to accept change, and change is going to bring finances into the city. The city, we're in a perfect position as far as, I think the South Coast Massachusetts is the best area of Massachusetts, in my opinion. Me just been all over the state and all over the New England. And we're close to the Cape. We're close to Providence. We're close enough to Boston. We're centralized. So it's a good thing it's a good place to have something like that in our city. And I think that with this train is going to eventually develop that. But I always, I'm saying this for you to correct me if I'm wrong. I just felt like the people at that time were making those decisions were just an old mindset.
And somewhat holding the city back. Because if we had gotten a train 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, you imagine what the difference could be.
Yes.
And how we could have progressed with projects, like I said, and maybe others had. Because again, when I took this job, and I, especially being elected citywide, you represent this whole city. The most important thing to me was the cultures of the city and what the city was made up of, and how we could capitalize on that. And you know it as well as I do. If we go back 20, even 30 years, we have a lot more to offer lot more that we could have sold, that could have, even if the older folks got out,
Yeah.
the younger folks could have stepped right in. And this is a base. And when I say that, I mean a base for the cultural diversity that the city is made up of. And you wanted to protect those neighborhoods because, see, when everybody goes to Central Kitchen on Saturday for Manchupa, I used to be like flabbed when I stood there and looked and I seen you. Then Derek was there. Then the superintendent from school was there. The coach from the basketball team. They were from every walk of life coming to the Cape Verdean section of the city to get this
experience that culture of the
culture.
Cape Verdean
Just
community.
as we would experience the Portuguese culture, and it goes on. And if you want to talk about that, guys, even when they took down the old Goodyear site, there was a guy, I'm trying to remember his name, Mr. Farrell, who came up with an idea, and I thought the idea was fantastic. He wanted to build a multicultural center on the Goodyear property. Now, this, when you say center, people, what are you talking about? Center, we go and learn that. Not only would you be able to go there and learn the cultures, you would go up there and you would walk through the door. And we said, let's go to Cape Verde and have dinner tonight. So when you walk through the door and you walk through that Cape Verdean restaurant, you were in Cape Verde because of the everything.
I get what you're talking about.
You see what the draw is, and they're coming from all over the world. We'll go across and we'll be in Portugal.
It's almost like Epcot. Like Epcot, they have it go around the world.
We go to the backside and we're in Italy, wherever, and we experience it all. And what a soul that could have been. And working not with the cultures or whoever set it up, however it would be set up, we would work with those other countries because we want to sell the goods here. You understand? Because it's just like you're there. You may not ever have a chance, but you're there. And again, what a fantastic idea, with an idea that would have drawn thousands to this city. And again,
it is not like the cultures are not here already. We have those types of restaurants. They're here already. So why not create a center that you can experience that all together, where you have, instead of the country being divided, we're all coming to one place and all be as one.
A proposal at the golf course for a casino. I was the first counselor to stand up and say,
that's another thing I want
to before we give any of these spots away. You know how you go to Foxwood and these places, it's got all these. Antonio's is located in there. Central Kitchen is located in there. You understand? We're selling who we are. We're the seafood capital of the world. You should be able to get everything there. Okay. What they talk about, you don't want to get me rolling because you get me rolling, and I have to tell you that even some of the stuff that I see proposed today, and I sit back and I say, you stole my idea because I told you 20 years ago to do this, but you didn't want to do it, or you didn't want to do it again because Gomes would have made the change. It's everything from that fresh seafood market down on the waterfront, the store with the little shack so we could purchase things, real tourism atmosphere. Gomes was there. Gomes was there. And you see that walkway that everybody walks on down the south end that you think is so beautiful. It is beautiful.
It is
but
beautiful.
Where did that idea come from? Right here. Gnome. Brian Gomes. And I appreciate Mayor Mitchell at the state of the city giving me credit for that
idea. And it's a beautiful walk. It is.
And how I wanted to do it was even more in depth. And if I ever had the opportunity, I wanted to fly every cultural flag that this city is made up of as you're coming in through them walls. The same thing when you get down here on the Octopus, that diamond where the lighthouse is. You fly every cultural flag that the city is made up of. It's going to get some attention. We had that in richness. It's not something like we're just trying to get people to discover. We had it.
That's what our city is a very diverse
just
city.
As being young people, whether you left your house on Acushnet Avenue and Bedford Street and walked south to County and Rivet Street, you experienced the Portuguese. You went north, you experienced the Polish, you experienced the Irish and the French, and it went on.
And the city's not that big where you have no choice but to experience it. You take 2 steps and it's a different. Exaggerating, but 2 steps, you're in a different type of cultural environment, that's what I don't like, where I think we're in a state where we're in our cliques now. We're going in our cliques, and I don't like that.
Nope.
And it's not
healthy.
It's not healthy, but it's also taken away from our power as a country. in my opinion, because our country is in our diversity. Is our power in our country is our diversity. In our city, I think I used to live in Rhode Island. It's so funny. I used to live in Rhode Island, and watching the news what they say about our city, knowing that I'm from there, I'm like, all they're talking about is this negative stuff. But the negative stuff is same thing here, where when I lived here and you think about they talk about Rhode Island, they all just talk about the negative stuff, but there's nice stuff there too. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So when people try to dog out the city, it's bad, as bad, as bad, especially people from out that way. Goes, no, you haven't experienced the city. Once you come here, a lot of people love living here because of the diversity
Well,
that's in it.
a lot that we have here, we as those who have lived here, some people take it for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you bring visitors here and you take them for a simple ride, and they are, wow, you have this. Even our waterfront, going down around the south end of the water or whatever, right to the waterfront from the neighborhoods or whatever. And you see, you get me off on another tangent or whatever.
We're getting you going to that.
Yeah, no, it's almost like when we sell the city of New Bedford. Don't worry, I won't change the channel.
I just want to get it out of the shop.
When we sell the city of New Bedford, we always sell the city with downtown. That you see those films, the waterfront, the beach. If I was selling the city, I'm going to sell it from Cushing Avenue to the south end. I'm going to show you the kids playing in the neighborhoods. I'm going to show you the parks and everything. That's when you're really selling the city. That's when you got a handle on this whole entire city, that you're bringing it together. We have such a great city here. We have its flaws like any other city.
Any other
city.
city.
Work at it. Work at it. But some things that arise, it shouldn't have never arisen and should be quelled immediately, should be dealt with immediately. We've got so much to offer here, and sometimes I feel that we're not taking advantage of it to the fullest extent, that we should be.
We should
advantage of it, and that's to serve this entire community. And a city like ours, I just have a great love for the city. I know what the city has done for me, and I know the opportunity that I have had just to represent this city. And there's been some tough times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've been around for a long time. I know what it is to walk into thousands of people down in City Hall screaming. I've seen the protests. I've seen this. I've seen the crime wave. I've seen the not happy with the way policing is and all that. I've been this whole ride. And what it has done is a lesson to be learned, also an education for me, and made me a better representative, because for me, I like to sit back for a minute and take it all in, and then have an opinion. And if the opinion can't be in the affirmative, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet, because I like to uplift. I like to uplift people. I like to uplift my city. And what we were talking about before, again, protecting every neighborhood, the cultures of the city and everything is so enriched that the payday hasn't even came. And I'm not saying the right leadership isn't in place, but I am who I am. And, I'll just keep working at it.
I sense the passion.
I'll just keep working at it. I have a love for the city.
Can I jump in there real
quick?
quick?
Go ahead.
Because before we lose track of the casino, I remember when I was a kid. I remember the debate between Mayor Kalis and Mayor Rosemary Taney. You know, going, whether the casino's coming, it's not coming. Blah blah blah. You've been around for a long time now, so let me ask you, like, how close you think the casino was to come to New Bedford?
I think the casino was close to coming a couple of times. What we just didn't have was the right leadership in place
to get it over
the hump. And you can't blame Rosemary Taney. I'm not going to blame Fred Kalis. I'm going to blame some others that are in higher ranking places that could have took us there. I believe, without mentioning any names, if there was different representation in Boston who previously had that vision for big and bold, get it done, protect the city, keep the neighborhoods and everything, it would have happened.
So let me ask part two to that question, because to learn about your job or whatever, being a city council, right? Obviously the New Bedford is your main focus, but when you talk about stuff like the casino, the rail, the train that just came in, like, you must spend a little bit of your time advocating with officials in Boston, right?
Oh yes,
State House, to try to bring stuff over here.
Yep. whenever it came, I'll give you an example, like with the walkway. When the walkway came to fruition and when we proposed it, that had to go to the Army Corps of Engineers. I needed to stay on that.
Gotcha.
I needed Senator Montigny, them the guys, because of what was involved or whatever. That kind of sat flat a while or whatever. And then, of course, it came to fruition with this mayor or whatever. But back to what you're saying, as far as like the casino, I think we were on the verge of getting the casino a couple of times. The second time when we were going to locate it down here, I think was actually a mix-up. Not a a mess up with what we were demanding from them. The demands from that casino project was just too great for them to
do it.
come in here and do it or whatever, and that's why we lost it. The demands were too great. In business, I think when you're working like this, you have to have that open mind where you have to negotiate. You have to be able to let a little go, gain a little, place a little, but with the thought of the city of New Bedford. That's the final game plan, to bring this to the city of New Bedford, not to lose it or whatever. We've lost so much over the years that I've seen that could have came here. If you remember that when the chip place wanted to locate in Dartmouth, Dyson or whatever, when the Dartmouth people didn't want it, I wasn't elected yet, but I wanted our representative jumping on that. Imagine we were doing that in the industrial park or whatever, those type of jobs, having them in the city of New Bedford.
All right. Can I go on again?
Go ahead. No. Keep it going.
Well, I want to ask about, just keeping it like in the city and stuff. What do you think? How do you think like downtown is shaping up?
Downtown is shaping up, but it has to be a concrete plan of action that stays with it. I've been here 34 years. I've seen downtown change. I've seen the walking mall that get all pulled up. We put in new sidewalks that gets all pulled up. Putting aside where we at now. Okay, I understand. Some of the housing that is going up, that's okay. You want to bring that down to the downtown area. I just want to see a downtown that works after 4 o'clock.
Right.
Works after 4 o'clock, where downtown stays open. You can't get a coffee downtown after.
Right. No, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then them are things we used to be able to get. You have some entrepreneurs that are coming along, such as the Smash Burger and others that are taking them steps to stay open late at night or whatever. Downtown is coming about, but I want to see it work more.
So I love downtown, but so let me ask you: do you think it's because they don't have enough foot traffic after 5 o'clock? Is it like a safety thing with the area?
It's a few different
little.
I believe that it's a few different things that have come into play, whether it's the safety, the walking traffic, but we have to have the will. We have to have the will, and it has to be not only the business owners. It has to be a game plan set with the city to move forward.
Right.
And to look at downtown when we're kids. So, downtown Thursday night is open.
Yeah.
So you went downtown.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Friday night, Saturday, even Sundays. You want to make you want the city to work like other cities,
right?
And draw that. So it's that more revenue, it's that more opportunity, it's that more opportunity for young people with jobs or whatever. And of course, attracting right now to downtown, what we need is a beacon downtown, a strong drawer. We have the things, and I'm not talking about things like the Italian and the Wheeling Museum or whatever. A big store or something that just draws you down here, that makes you come down here.
Do you feel that we are relying too much on our history of downtown to bring in customers like you're speaking of, that foot traffic? I think that we are very proud of our history, the Wheeling City history, but as we get further away from history, do you feel like we need, again, is kind of old thinking where they're like, all right, we're going to depend on our history when we got to be a city of innovation? We got to get in these types of attractions to get the foot track within the city. Do you feel like there's a little bit of like we're just holding on too much of the past?
Yes. Yes, when we got to move a little forward and sell that history.
Yes,
At the same
at the
time.
same
I'll give you a
time.
perfect example. When the COVID set in, you know those fire trees that they came along with that we've seen in a lot of the places or whatever?
Yep.
Well, New Bedford, Massachusetts can't do what Providence does as the water fires, but damn, we could do historical fires, couldn't we?
Yeah.
We
Oh,
set
that,
stuff
you know,
all
that's a
over
good
the
idea.
historical
Yeah.
area on a weekend and see that kind of draw to
Yeah.
the city of New Bedford with entertainment,
Yes.
music, the stores open, the shops
Yeah.
open, the selling of goods right in the open on whether it's in that park that's located in the historical, which feeds the whole downtown.
So you only do that like once in a while now, right? Like the car shows, like the 70s car
Right.
show, right?
The 50s
50s,
car
yeah.
show.
So you
No,
do that
another one. No,
every
God
weekend.
bless Joe Jesus. And I said this to Joe and I said it to him publicly. If I was the man in charge, we're doing 50s 4 nights.
Right.
Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're having Shana here. We're having anybody that we can get a hold of. If you don't like the 50s, that's okay. But there are thousands of
Yeah.
people who do
It
it
fills up.
and really
Yeah.
enjoy it. And you've seen when it doesn't. So you imagine doing that in the downtown,
Yeah.
in the city for 4 nights, and the tourism that we're drawing. Again, opening to that more than just the history or whatever.
Now, like
idea.
I think it's also because we have a beautiful looking city. I always bring up this example. Like I had a relationship before who had a younger daughter, and it always stick to me. I brought her to the Wheeling Museum, right? And when I brought her to the Wheeling Museum, they have that balcony where it overlooks the waterfront. When she walked to that balcony, you know what she said? This is a 7-year-old child. She said, "Oh, this is a globe." It looked like a movie set to her. That's how beautiful the city was. This is a 7-year-old child that did not know anything about New Bedford. She's not from this area. And she just said, "Well, we're in the globe. This ain't real." I said, "No." I explained, "No, this is real." She's like, "No, it's not. We're in the globe." You know, an innocent mindset. And that just that always stuck to me is like, wow. Like I didn't look at it that way because I grew up in this city. So I'm used to it. Someone that comes from the city tourism, thinking like, wow, this is a movie set, you know, and to take advantage of that. So my thing is, do you feel like also I want to speak on what about like dining, outside dining?
Love it.
Is it that
Outside
because that's an
dining in
attraction?
downtown, big attraction, big attraction. And we've seen what the payoffs with that, even with the COVID.
Yes.
A lot of the businesses started doing that. And we love to see that.
Mhm.
And that's an attraction to have that dining out.
Because you have the beauty, the city's so beautiful, and people sitting in the middle of the city eating dinner or
The
eating
atmosphere
lunch,
is right.
and the atmosphere, you're creating an atmosphere that people, because at the same time, like you can